hold on to your knickers right now. People have been asking where we are. It turns out that we have listeners. And in the void, this hiatus that we have taken, people have inquired where we are. So I took the liberty of every time someone asked, I tagged Sylvia on LinkedIn and said, we're just waiting for Sylvia to get out of rehab. And I made myself laugh so hard.
The Hollow Buddy. And we all feel hollow sometimes.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. I'm Kristen Zeman, and I am here with a couple of my co-hosts, Ted Madden, who doesn't realize that he got promoted. What's the title? I don't know. Who cares? But you just got promoted because now we're going to keep you on screen, and there's a reason for that, Ted. Because people have been asking for you. Okay,
Really?
don't let your head get too big. But people have been asking for you.
Feast your eye on Mr. Texas. There's a cold front coming through this weekend. He's going to stock up on barbecue. And it's Ted.
I need some more firewood. Is what I need. We love building fires.
I'm also here with my other co-host, Sylvia Moyer.
Oh.
Hello,
Who didn't
Sylvia.
get promoted.
Oh, you've always been on the upper echelon.
Yeah, how do you get promoted from the top position?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Ted. There's a whole walk on water thing.
It's tough. It's tough being you. Yeah. So here we are at the Hollow Bunny podcast. And this podcast is for anyone interested in talking about life and leadership. Also some nonsense as well. But particularly all of the lessons that we have learned along the way. And those lessons fill up the Hollow Bunny metaphorically. So here we are. We're back.
We back. Where did we go, Kristen? Would you tell everybody about our hiatus? Go ahead. Spill it. What'd you tell everybody? You big
I told everyone, well, first, let me back up. We were getting inquiries. People have noticed our absence, and we didn't think anyone would. We decided to take a little break because of schedules and time zones and new jobs and a lot of things that have been happening in our personal lives, a lot of stuff going on. So we decided to take a little break, but we really didn't announce the break. So people have been asking me via LinkedIn, all my social media platforms, even at conferences, they come up, they're like, where's the Hollow Bunny podcast? So I have literally told everyone that we are on hiatus because Sylvia Moyer is in rehab.
And here's what's freaking hilarious. Nobody said, aw, poor thing. Or option B, I am so proud of her for addressing what ails her. Or C, we should reach out to her.
Listen,
No,
LinkedIn is a very serious site. LinkedIn is a serious site. I tagged you in every comment where I wrote, the Hollow Bunny will be back. We're just waiting for Sylvia to get out of rehab. And I tagged you. And I laughed so hard when I hit that post button. And I was expecting people to send you like flowers or some well wishes. Nothing.
Nope. They're all like, ooh. That's private. Should she have told us?
Say nothing.
It says one of two things. It says either people don't give a shit about you, or two, they knew Kristen was full of shit.
I'm going to go with two.
Let's
go with the latter.
Ted. Let's do a secret vote. We'll hold up a finger on which one we vote. One is they don't give a shit.
One is good. Okay.
And one is that. And two is they know Kristen's like,
I'm good with two.
Funny.
Oh, I cracked myself up so hard. Oh. And as I was saying, rehab really, I mean, it doesn't have to go. Everybody goes so dark to rehab. Like you could be a sex addict. You could be a sugar addict. You could be rehabbing a house. We don't know. Rehab is like super loose. It's innocuous.
Rehab could be like a knee. I've had a knee replacement or a hip replacement or, come on.
It's not as innocuous as you're trying to claim.
I know. Well, that's my defense, and that's what I'm sticking with. And then this little smartass over here, that one, the little blonde one, posted something on LinkedIn. And so I made a comment back that I was, affirming her and she's amazing in her speaking gigs. And I said, and FYI, I'm not posting this from rehab. Did huh?
And still no comments. I think people are just like, oh, I think they think it's
Yep.
like they're cringed out. They just don't even know what to say. When people don't know what to say, they say nothing.
Mm.
So I don't know,
Right.
man. I'm running with this. It's amusing me and it's at your expense. And those two things are things I appreciate.
Funny, none of that is new. Yeah.
Well, you look great and welcome back.
Wow, thanks. I
You
just
look
feel
refreshed
so
and rehabbed. You look
yes.
Yeah.
rehabbed.
And today, Ted, we're launching like the Ted on camera, the trio of joy and insight. And we've been talking about a lot of stuff over the holidays. Miss Fancy Pants over here came out to Sedona. We had we hiked, we ate, we drank, we had a ping pong championship tournament that yeah, Kristen and I didn't claim the championship ring, but we did find a commonality, Ted, and that is when Sylvia creates a beautiful bracket on the wall and all the lines are perfect. It appeals to Miss Kristen and I because we like our lines to be all nice and pretty
I
and
do too.
straight.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. Appeals to you,
Mhm.
Ted, because you, Mr. Honor Roll, Mr. National Honor Roll, Aurora High Blackhawks. Well,
Yeah.
wait,
There you
what?
go. There you go.
Okay,
Oh, you're
good,
getting so
good,
warm. You're just getting
good.
so much
Okay,
warmer.
a bird.
You got it.
Uh,
Blackhawks.
a prey. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, that when people start messing with our brackets and they do squiggly lines, it's really a point of agita. Something comes up for us with that.
Yeah, she used. Listen, let me say I was a medal holder. I did not win. I came in second, so per usual, I am the winner at losing.
Mhm.
But
Uh-huh.
I did make it to the medal stand, and the chief of Sedona actually kicked my ass.
She won.
Shout out to her, fair and square. It was a great game. But Sylvia had taken painstakingly and when the bracket was as big as a billboard on the wall, and you could tell
True.
that she got rulers out and all
True.
of the different color markers, and the
True.
brackets were so beautiful until some
Savage, this
psychopath.
freaking monster.
Some
Oh, she's
non-bed maker,
uh, well,
right?
mm,
Probably don't make a
that,
bed.
you know what? You know what? Actually, funny you should mention that because this said psychopath is my wife, and she took a marker and she started drawing all over her brackets because she's like, "You didn't make a loser's bracket," blah, and she started drawing all these arrows.
Resolution.
And Sil and I
Ooh.
almost shut down.
Yeah.
And you just having said that she's not a bed maker, the rule in my house is whoever is out of bed last
Mhm.
makes the bed. And I don't know what this pattern is happening in our house, but she's not fulfilling that. She's the last one out of bed, and I walk in and the bed isn't
Well,
made.
you remake it
So
anyway, so why should she
I,
go
I
through the
do, but I
labor?
want effort because I
Okay.
want the
Okay.
effort. I want the
That's fair.
goddamn effort. Okay.
That's fair.
But
So
now we
anyway,
need rehab, bitch.
yeah, that's right. Wait, me? Is it my
Oh,
anger?
no, not
Or should we
you.
put her? We should put her in
She
rehab.
rehab.
Okay.
She's
Thank
a
God.
monster.
I thought I had to go to rehab. Okay.
No.
Okay, so anyway, it was a lovely time, and in part of that, we also had a business meeting about the Hollow
We
Bunny
did.
podcast and
We did.
relaunching. We did not inform you that you were going to come on as a host, and so here we are, surprise. You're not going behind the
Yeah.
scenes because you're
Okay.
just too
Yeah.
pretty.
Well, first of all, Sylvia, congratulations because I didn't know you were good at paddle sports.
Oh, yeah, Ted.
Secondly,
Yeah.
I do have some
Mhm.
experiences being on camera, so this is not as scary as it might seem.
Okay, and you need to know this, Ted Madden. People were saying, more Ted, more Ted, more Ted.
Sometimes less is more, so we'll see after a couple episodes.
Okay, Mr. Subway.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what we're doing. So we're relaunching, and today's a little loosey goosey because we just want to, re-engage with our bunnies and invite them back to listen, to continue following us. And, we're going to talk about topics of the day, but it's primarily going to be the three of us. And if we feel like having a guest, maybe we'll do that because you know why? There
Mhm.
are no
Mhm.
rules, and we just decide that we'll make them as we go along.
Yeah. And we listen to the people, and people are telling us kind of the challenges that are coming up for them. And one of them that Kristen and I talked about, we have 2 big things to talk about in this relaunch. One is about attribution and how it ensures proper credits given to people, and what is our responsibility with attribution and integrity and credibility and trust. We're going to talk about that. And then Kristen has challenged this card. Whoop, whoop, this card has my goals for 2025. So
Mhm.
this episode or a future episode, we're going to be talking about how we set goals. Because last year, I think we launched 2024 that trust and building trust was the big thing for 2024. How we do that in a lot of areas of our life as leaders, as partners, as business partners, as all of these kind of roles that we fill. How do we build, cultivate, and reinforce trust to be trusted, trusting, trustworthy? We did that in 2024, and it was a real commitment. And so we wanted to talk about attribution and what attribution says to folks. So it's a big, big leadership topic.
It is, but let's go backwards in time, and I'm going to weigh my words very carefully because there, are individuals that we don't. No one wants to name anyone. Let's just say that we don't want to drag anyone through the mud. But here is really the thesis behind this thought process is work, creativity, the things that we put out in the world.
Hmm.
Um, by thought leaders that we things that we read and the things that we come up with individually, where is it necessary to provide the attribution to the individual who was had that original thought. And then this was fodder for our hike in Sedona, because then still challenged that whole concept of no thought being original. So say what you said about that, because you made me stop, and it wasn't because I was lost on the mountain, even though we were. But you made me really think about that. Is any thought actually original, or have they all been thought?
Right. I mean, I offered just that there was a professor that I had that said that nothing we think is original, that all thoughts have actually already been offered to the world. And one of our responsibilities in an academic environment or an environment where we ponder, consider, share, write, speak, whatever that
Mhm.
environment is, our responsibility then is to give attribution when we know it to the original thinker.
Sure.
And so, and then to take that thought, kind of this, is it tabula rasa, that kind of clean slate, right?
Hmm.
There is no real clean slate with thought, is to take that thought, to enrich it, to make it contemporary, perhaps influenced by our experience, our research, our our being witnessed to, and then offer it to the world more broadly. But it was this kind of idea where we were on this beautiful hike in Sedona where we said, actually, there is no original thought. But our responsibility is in writing to give attribution for a number of reasons. We can talk about those, but also for our space in this world to give attribution for those thinkers and doers that came before us.
I think that gives you that shows humility if you admit that
Yes.
your ideas aren't original. And then I also think it gives you some historical perspective to know that, we aren't the first to do this or that or to think this or that. And it makes you think more historically, which I think a lot of us need to do more of.
Without a doubt. So you hit on something really important there. And this was part of the conversation. So when you look at the people that I refer to as the greatest thought leaders, I love Simon Sinek. I read everything he writes, every podcast he's on. I really enjoy listening to him. And his book, The Infinite Games, is based on someone else's idea. Simon knows how to package that and to add some additional thoughts to that, right? Adam Grant, we're big fans of his. He's a researcher, and he takes these thoughts, to Sylvia's point, that are not his. And he is so brilliant. He's actually the best at it. Adam Grant will say a sentence and he'll say, "This study came from," and he will literally name the individuals who've done the research. And that
Right.
is so sexy. And what I've noticed is that people who take other people's thoughts and ideas lack confidence. And you said humility. We're saying the same thing here is that there is an insecurity of taking something and making it or presenting it as your own. And I'm sure there have been times in my life where I posted a blog or wrote something that, oh, I know that it wasn't my idea, but it's in my brain because I've read it somewhere. And so, that's a little different when you're, talking about, like I talk about optimism, and so does Simon Sinek. I am nowhere near, Simon Sinek of the world, but we talk about the same things. And that has just been an evolution of my experiences. But I'm also very careful when I am on stage and I read something and I'm using it as a broader context for my audience to say, I just read this from this article by this author, and here's something
Right.
to posit. And the reason that this came up is because Sylvia, there's this movement that started. We've talked about this Save a Seat for a Sister movement that started really with Sylvia Moyer in California. I was the benefactor of that movement. Then the context is, for those listeners who are new, is that you when there are so few women in law enforcement, that when you go to a law enforcement conference, predominantly men. And so what you do as a woman is you put your purse or your bag on a seat and you quote, save that seat for the sister. You may not know her, but if she walks in, you flag her down so she doesn't feel so alone. And so is that right? Is that how, I mean, this is yours, but I was the benefactor of it before I even knew exactly what it was. And it was traced back to something that you did, or actually something that happened to you. And so that being said, whose idea is that and who gets to run with it and
Right.
to talk about it?
Right. And I don't even know where that came up. I really have no recollection of attribution. I know it was early in my chief life. A new chief walked into a California Police Chiefs Association meeting. She stood there, and I went over and introduced myself and said, I saved you a seat. She said, how could you save me a seat? You don't even know me. Right? That's kind of making it brief. But really, it became a movement with a consciousness and intention, and a behavior that then followed. And really, there are folks that have really started grabbing onto this and advancing it. That's fantastic. The the real genesis for it was that quite often women are relegated to the outer ring, and uh, they have earned a seat at the table with an equal voice, right? When they're in many of these spaces. And so that was the genesis. And then it became an intention, it became a behavior that was repeated and spread. Where we have some difficulty is where people don't give any kind of acknowledgement of where it came from. Now, let's say this: academic integrity, different. That attribution is absolutely essential. It also, when you give attribution like Kristen does on a stage, it lends itself to building her credibility and trust, because she's not saying this is new or novel. And the reference back to some of the folks that you just talked about, Kristen, they're packaging something in a way that people can consume,
Mhm.
digest, and make actionable. And isn't that what we want? That's really what we want. That's the hollow bunny. That's me snapping off an ear, you biting the butt of the bunny, and then filling it with things that people can consume, digest, make actionable, and really make a difference. So I have one that I talk about, Kristen, all the time, with the distinction between notification and communication. This is really, really important. And when I talk about it, I said, this came to my consciousness through Kristen Zeman, talking about how we distinguish between notification, which is just, hey, this is what's happening, communication, which is two parties engaged in dialogue really being from the root dialogos, getting through the meaning of the word, and engaging. Communication is very different. And having this ability to teach, to develop, to strengthen with our direct reports and others, notification versus communication. And I attribute it right back to her, because it's important to do that, because it's not my thought. So, how's that land with you, Ted, and kind of expanding that?
Uh, I think it does show that humility and shows that you aren't trying to be up there knowing everything. I also think of this, when if I talk about religion with people, I'll say, my dad told me that more people have died in human history in the name of God than for any other reason, right? And I tribute him. He didn't come up with that.
Mhm.
So, at some point you have to, I don't know, just knowing that and thinking about that, he's the one who told me. That's the first place I heard it from, but he wasn't the original sayer of it either.
See, that's what makes this a really complex topic because communication versus notification, I couldn't tell you if that was an original thought in my
You can
mind.
tell us. You
I
can tell
I,
us.
I have no idea where that came from. If it was something because I would get so frustrated with being told what to do without being told why. And I remember telling myself, if I ever get to a position of leadership, I will make sure that I explain to everyone. I will take the time on the front end to explain to people. And that morphed into this communication versus notification. I don't know if I made that up. There is something I use in my keynotes, and I talk about mentors versus tormentors. And I got that from a captain in Bakersfield, California, by the name of Hajir Nuruddin. And I hope I'm saying her last name right, but I wrote that down. And I think it was 15 years ago. I found it in my notes and I started
Mm,
using it. And
mm.
I always say, I got this from a captain in Bakersfield. Now, do I know if she made it up? I have no idea, but that's where it came into my consciousness. So there most certainly is. And I think that's where we talk about deliberate and intentional, those who take something and present it as their own versus someone who is having a thought. I don't know where I read this or where I heard this, but it's applicable to the conversation now. And then of course, the thought, and that's what Simon Sinek does so good is, as you mentioned, Sil, is to take this concept and to apply it now to your business and to your life in general. And so they take the difficult things and make them more manageable and tangible. And I guess that's what it's all about. But I think that we have to take the time when we know where we read something or heard something to make that attribution. I think it's very important.
Isn't that
Yeah.
part of what you mentioned it, I think so, when we were talking about taking those ideas and distilling them, what Michael Easter and Adam Grant and what Malcolm Gladwell does, like they comb through these studies so we don't have to.
Mhm.
So they're
That's right.
attributing the ideas, but nobody's going to go read those research papers, right? We're not going to
Mhm.
read that ourselves, and they're presenting it these great ideas that aren't their own, and they tell us they aren't their own, but they're presenting them in a way that get those ideas out to a broader population.
Exactly. That's so astute, Ted, because uh, for someone to go out into the academic environment and read a study, they're like you said, they're not going to do that. So it's taking those nuggets and putting them in a package that people can kind of chew on and make actionable. It's brilliant. I think what the overarching point is that we have a leadership responsibility. We have a responsibility to give attribution where attribution is appropriate. And on this basis of humility, to be in this space where people are giving us the gift of their time and their attention, our intention needs to be to inform, to inspire, to educate, to give attribution where it's appropriate. Isn't that kind of it?
Yes, and this is so broadly violated in the business world because so many leaders, and I use that word loosely in describing this, is they take other people's ideas and the accolades assigned to them, and that leader gets the credit. The leader is going to get the credit because they are the face of the organization. So that is why when things go right, of course, not, that's why heavy is the head who wears the crown, because the leader not only gets the accolades for when things go right, but also they are responsible when things go wrong, even when it is not their fault. But that is why they have to take extreme measure to make sure that when an idea is successful and the company succeeds or the organization is elevated because of it, that leader points to the junior leader that said, "Hey, here's an idea," takes that idea and makes sure that they get that attribution. It takes nothing from the leader to do that. It doesn't take away their credibility or their title, but it actually adds to the trust. And that's where we're coming full circle here, is that attribution matters, and it's insecure people that don't offer it.
Right. And what I find so interesting is we can all point to a dozen examples where somebody advances something and they think it was their own idea. Isn't that one of the leadership kind of imperatives, is to drive something forward? You know, we have strategy and we have tactics, and really I have an inside kind of chuckle when somebody advances something and they don't even know from where it originated, because it's a, uh, and this attribution, not to seek it, is a leadership responsibility. We don't seek it; it's the work. Who gets the attribution isn't important. I think what we're distinguishing here for all of our Hollow Bunny listeners is that we should provide it, but not seek it for self. Does that hit with you in any way? Because I think that's kind of my truth.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what Ted was saying about the humility. And, in a level 5 leader, that is the thing that stands out. That's what
Yeah.
makes them a high level leader, is that humility. One of the biggest things that chaps me is when people use phrases to describe the mass shooting that happened in my city, is that the officers performed under her leadership, as if I had anything to do with the way that those heroes performed on that day. I just happened to be the chief, and I had the great privilege of being able to tell their story on that day and to stand at the podium. But they were the ones running towards the gunfire. I was in the command post with my dry erase board and managing resources, which again is a job that I had to do, and I don't take that lightly. And I'm certainly, I'm not making it's not self-deprecating at all. It's the fact that that the leader gets those accolades. And I just think, oh my gosh, it was those 5 officers that got shot running towards gunfire. They are the heroes, and the true leaders. And so that attribution should always go to them, but the leader always seems to get the credit for it. And it's
Well,
hard to swallow sometimes.
right. It says great Navy saying I repeat all the time. Attribution, Navy. Great Navy saying is, it's not the lofty sail, but the unseen wind that propels the ship. People look at the sail. They look at the person at the top for driving things forward. And sure, we do, certainly, with strategy and policy and culture and climate, but it's not the single factor. And I get your bristling against people attributing that to your leadership, just as like attributing, other kind of statistics and measures to failed leadership. It's just, there's some kind of perspective where that would resonate, but others where I could see where you bristle against that.
But also the leadership that you provide to the Aurora Police Department um, had something to do with the way those officers reacted, right? I mean, and I know you weren't being self-deprecating when you say you didn't have a whole lot to do with the heroes who are in the action, but you create a culture as a leader, and that helps everybody under that umbrella perform to the best of their abilities, and you did that.
Yeah, because they did not hesitate when others were losing their mind, right?
Well,
They
we saw what
were
happened in Uvalde, right? When we talk about hesitation.
right,
Yeah.
right.
That is, so that goes back to the basis of trust, where all conversations begin. The only thing that I will take credit for, is putting people in positions that are marvelous at their job. And our training division did a remarkable job of coming up with scenario-based training. The thing that I did is give them the autonomy to do that. And that is the only thing I'll take credit for, is that they
Only
put us through all of those training exercises. So we learned to play like we practice. And that's exactly what happened on that day. So I know how to pick a pony and put great people in great positions, then get the hell out of the way. I also, as a sidebar, want to say, as we mentioned, Adam Grant and the way that he can have a conversation and then pull out research. Sylvia can do that with quotes.
I
You
know.
pull quotes out of your ass. And I don't know I don't know where they are stored in your Rolodex, but you just pull out quotations like perfection. I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Do you also like tell jokes? Like when someone says, "Hey, do you have a joke?" Are you one that remembers a good joke? Because I can't. I'm terrible at that.
Me
Oh,
either.
I can remember a joke.
See? Oh my
Okay.
I
God, you
mean,
have a gift.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure it's a gift. Maybe that's what I was in rehab for.
If you asked me to tell you a joke, I literally I would choke because I'm like I don't have a joke memorized. I
Quit it.
mean my only joke
Quit
is
it.
telling everyone that Sill's in rehab, but I don't know how to tell a punchline joke. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't even know
Girl,
what to do. You can pull a quote and a joke out of your ass.
I'm going to get you a Groupon for like a joke memory class. Okay, we'll get you a Groupon. Come on, that's
Groupon.
something that you put on your 2025 list. I'm going to remember a fucking joke. That's going to be Kristen's demon. I'm going to tell a joke. I'm going to remember the joke. Ted,
All right.
you and I, we're on this. We're on this.
All right.
So can we go backwards in time? And Ted, I'm totally putting you on the spot here, but this is what I
Oh, God,
do.
this
Okay, I
is
can
fun.
edit it out.
Okay, yay.
Yeah,
Yippee.
you can. That's the beauty of being the associate producer if
Right.
I give you the password. So Ted and I had a conversation a while back on the phone. I was out traveling and we were able to finally connect. And Ted, you told me something about what you have gained from being a part of this. And you mentioned the comfort crisis and you mentioned Lieutenant Cold Plunge. Can you just share with everyone how how this has altered you and your existence? Because
Yes.
I hung up the phone with you and I was like, that is so fucking cool.
And look at him.
Yeah.
So
Well,
handsome.
the comfort
Ooh,
crisis has become my own personal Bible. And I think I
okay.
told you I listened to it, got it at the library, so read it while I was listening to it, and then afterwards I bought a copy and brought a highlighter, and so went through it again and highlighted all the parts I wanted to be able to open up and look at quickly. It's an incredible book, and I refer to it all the time when I'm talking to friends about all these different things. It's amazing. So I can't recommend that book enough. And then Lieutenant Cold Plunge, it was about a year ago we had him on. We recorded his podcast, and that just put the little seed in my head. And sometimes, like your optimization chart, Kristen, I just stumbled on that the other day, and I can't implement something until I'm ready. And that was that your optimization chart is going to be soon. But Lieutenant Cold Plunge planted the seed, and it was January in Dallas. And I thought, I have a pool. It's free. It's good for me. I can do this, right? And if you would have told me, 2 years ago that I would be cold plunging, I would have thought you were crazy. But I've done it every day since then. I've missed only a couple days here and there. And and then when the pool got too warm, I just started by taking cold showers all through the summer. In November, I got back in the pool again. And then this morning, as we mentioned the cold front, it was 23 degrees outside at 6 a.m. And you just do it. And I think it's yeah. And so as far as like my, I don't know, health, fitness, betterment, I told you this too a while back, Kristen. I had a countdown to how many weeks until my 50th birthday, right? Because I thought the milestone would help motivate me. And it didn't. New Year's Eve, New Year's resolutions never motivated me. I've never been good about setting them or even keeping them. But this just happened organically with Lieutenant Cold Plunge. And then I had a bad meeting with my supervisor in January of last year, and I was like, what? I'm going to take care of myself. So I made sure to go down and make sure to get 20, 30 minutes of good exercise every day during my lunch hour, right? And then I got a bad blood report in May, and so I just completely changed my eating habits, lost like 10 to 15 pounds, and I really credit knowing you two and doing this podcast for being a better version of myself, but there's also other things that have helped that too. But I'm just in such a better place January 2025 than I was a year ago, and I wasn't in a bad place. But it's been great. I'm better for it. My family's better for it, and it's largely due to you two.
Oh,
Say no.
it's a credit to you, Ted,
No,
because
we all
people
have
hear
learned.
and people listen. And you know
Listen,
what?
I'm the same recipient. I was the student of all these conversations that we have had, the three of us, and from the guests that we have on. I bought the cold plunge. I mean, that's how much I started, mainlining the Kool-Aid on this. And it has changed my life. It has changed my mindset. It has literally helped me go back to CrossFit because I think this hurts and I can do anything for 3 minutes as long as my mind tells me I can. So this isn't anything to do with Sil or I. This is just a collective, conversation of the things that we're learning in life along the way, which honestly, if we're doing it right, it's learning every damn day. So that is a great pivot point. I love how far you've come, but that's a great pivot point into goal setting, into our 2025 goals. So, Sil, you have your piece of paper with your goals. So, this is a thing. Do you guys share your goals with people? I have a little group of friends that every year they submit their goals to me and we try to hold each other accountable during the year. And it's really interesting because, like, is sharing them holds that accountability, and it also shows a little bit of vulnerability of the weaknesses that we have in our life. So it's like before I send them, I'm always a little like, oof, should I be sharing these? But it helps so much. Do you guys share them with people? And I'm about to ask you to share yours for the ones that you're comfortable sharing, but do you share them for accountability or do you just do them quietly?
Okay, so a couple things here. Number one, anything I share with Kristen Zeman is then weaponized for humor. So, like my list of, when I was a single lady and it was my must have, nice to have, oh, hell no, that ain't happening, that got weaponized.
It did. It totally
There
did. But also, your new partner, who is absolutely wonderful, you shared that list, and I thought that list was a secret. So I was a little surprised that
yeah,
that I did not share that. You did.
okay,
I thought that was
so
sacred.
okay, so just a little note to self, if you share it with Kristen, be prepared to know that she will belly laugh. She might wet herself, but she's going to make fun of you. So
Mhm.
I don't typically share, but I'm sharing this with you, Kristen. But I want to stop here for a second. Ted Madden, what our lives intersected because you're Aurora Screaming Eagle, and with your Aurora Screaming Buzzard over there, and you guys have your fight song, and then you were pals from long ago, and you have this incredible talent, Ted, and our lives intersected because of this opportunity to bring something to people broadly. You had your big back surgery, it's been like stuff. And look at you on the other side of this. And look at how you are thriving because you have been open to considering how you feel your body, how you do for you. My mama used to say, Sylvia, selfish in North America is to do for oneself at the deprivation of others. However, Eastern philosophy also offers that traditional North American kind of description of to do for self at the deprivation of others is selfish. However, there's a second one, it's to do for self to be of greater service to others. And you are doing for self. So you can bring all that is the delicious morsel of Ted Madden to your people, to the world broadly. So you're doing for self and you can be of greater service to others. That is freaking rad, dude. Most people don't have that courage and strength to go, oh, what do I have to do for me? And you got these little signals, uh, a blood test, whatever these things were, where you challenged and you said, I want to be a better Ted Madden. That's ballsy, courageous, rad stuff, Ted. So we need to pause. What do you say? Hashtag Kristen,
No,
add to
I think
cart,
that's a lesson
Ted
for
Madden.
Descartes.
it's add to cart. That's what I always say. It's also really, and this is apropos for this kind of goal setting conversation because we are right now in the midst of Quitters Week. It's that point of the first of the year where everyone gives up on their resolutions, on their goals. But that goes right back to what Ted was saying is that, when he was counting down to 50, that didn't work for him. And
Right.
so the idea is this it genuinely think it comes down to is when the student is ready, the master appears. Because all of the stuff is around us telling us what to do,
Yep.
how to do it. We
Yep.
know what we are supposed to be doing. We know we're not supposed to be, that we know that alcohol is poison, but we still drink it. We know that we're not supposed to be eating the way we do, but we still do. We know we're supposed to be getting 8 hours of sleep. So we know all of the things that we would be fucking stoppable if we did all the
Yep.
things. So there has to be something that happens where we come to our own intrinsic motivation, an awakening, as it were. And that's what happened to you. And it just so happens that we got to be a part of that in the stratosphere as those messages were pinging you, where you finally went, oh, I think I'm going to listen this time.
Ah,
So all you, buddy, the student was ready.
Well, it wasn't even just a moment, right? It was the cold
Mm,
plunge moment, and then it was
yeah.
the blood test moment, and then it was the exercising a little bit more moment, and it's all just kind of combined to improve the way I go about things.
I love that. I love that for you, Ted. That's
So what's the
awesome.
answer? So what's the answer to that? Do you think that it's repetition? Do you think that the message has to be coming at you from all different directions in order for you to heed the message? Or do you genuinely think that the only way someone can change and act into the things they know they want to do, the goals they can achieve, is just by making the conscious decision to do it? It's like, this is the, if I guess if we had the answer, we could bottle it up and sell it. But this is the very science of what drives human beings, and it's different for
It
everyone, I
is. It's
guess.
That's the thing. It is different for everybody, and for me, it's like it's kind of like that movie Inception, right? Where there's an idea that gets planted into my head, and that was the cold plunge. For 2 weeks, I just couldn't shake it. I'm thinking I can get in a pool. And this guy who had all these joint issues and back pain, and I had back pain and some joint pain. I'm like, all you have to do is get in a pool every day for a couple of minutes. And I'm like,
Yep.
I can do that. That's not a big leap. It's not easy. Every day it still sucks. But for two
Yep.
Yeah.
minutes, 3 minutes, it can suck. And then you're
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
This is what Leon Festinger wrote a book and really in 1943 about cognitive dissonance, right? We
Mm.
know something's bad for us, but we continue it. And he described smoking as kind of the example. And there's all kinds of things. Chris and I talk about this, right? The things that are bad for you, the things that are good for you. It is interesting because the person has to be ready in every way. I mean, shit, going to rehab, right? So I want to
You're
share this
so
with you,
brave.
right? Because as we are recording this, I am in the beginnings of my 65-hour fast. And so I am in a 65-hour fast. And why I chose 65 is the year I was born, and it kind of worked out. So this is a big year for me.
What
It's terrifying.
what hour are you at now? When did you start this?
1,800 hours last night. So I'm at 12,
Okay.
20,
Oh
Okay.
God.
20-ish. God.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine at our daughter's volleyball tournament about fasting, and he says every once in a while he'll do 4 days. So I want to hear about what you're going to say, and then afterwards I want to hear about it.
Okay, and I want to hear about his experience with it. So I've got electrolytes, like no calorie electrolytes. I am drinking my black coffee. I'll have maybe some peppermint tea, herbal tea, caffeine free, but no food, nada. So we'll see how it's going. So
What's the
couple
end
of
in mind? What's the end in mind here? Is it a mental thing? Is it a flush for the body? I mean, is it physical or mental? What's your end in mind in this?
both primarily discipline, that
Okay.
this mindless eating, it's kind of ikigai is a Japanese philosophy around a number of things to prolong life, and one of the things that is offered is to eat until you're 80% full, right?
My mother
It's the
just told me that
satiate
recently. She read a book. Yeah, she read that book, and she
who
mentioned
did
that too. That what was the book pronounced? I can't. I don't want to try to say it.
ikigai,
Yeah,
Ikigai. Really, if
yeah,
you look at Japanese culture, Okinawa is a great
yeah.
an island that really promotes a lot of this way to live.
And they have more
And
centenarians
so,
than any other place in the world, right? Isn't that the
look at
place?
Mister. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this constant movement, flexibility, living an active life. These are all things on which a lot of folks have found a longer, more meaningful life. One that I'm one reason I'm doing it, Kristen, to answer that question is not only the physical kind of piece, but this psychological mental piece, to have discipline and drive around what I consume, not just to mindlessly go through putting things in my mouth. The other thing is there's this human piece where I connect with my meditation. I'm at peace with the discomfort, the comfort crisis. It's uncomfortable. I'm not going to immediately fix it. I'm going to reckon with it and say, okay, I'm hungry. Thank you. And I'm going to cultivate discipline. The other piece is there are millions of people that go days without eating because they don't have food. And it creates a humanity in me of compassion and empathy for the struggles of others. So it's just those are all kind of my pieces. And, my struggle that I've shared with Kristen is, I had a health diagnosis that I have to have a reckoning and some psychological strength and peace and grace with the fact that I'm no longer a runner. I identify as a runner. So maybe my rehab was that I'm not a runner. I was told no more marathons, no half marathons, no 10Ks, no running where there's not a defibrillator near me. I'm like, wait, what? And so there's a reckoning that comes with a change in identity. There's a leadership imperative here because people have an over connection with an identity, a role. Colin Powell, in his book by Orrin Harari, who said the 21 Secrets of Colin Powell, one that he said was distinguish self and role. And let's pull on this thread for a second. As one of my transition pieces into kind of this next stage chapter of my life, to over identify with the role of being in policing, whatever the title is to lose self. Don't lose self because the role goes, the self still remains. And so many folks have such an identity with the role they fill that when the role's gone, they lose their sense of self. So, this reckoning, this piece is transitional, it is important, starts with discipline, starts with this kind of awakening and understanding of this new identity, right? And so there's a lot there to unpack. What say you, incredible solid bunnies?
So I love the ideas that you have going into this, and I cannot wait to see you on the other side and to hear genuinely what your takeaways were, and if it checked all of the boxes. I understand the flush for physical reasons, and of course, this is a mental. I mean, this is a mental game that you are about to play because we know that we can go that long without food, but my gosh, is it uncomfortable? So right back to the comfort crisis that is
Right.
now Ted's handbook for life. And that's what it is. And it's so true. It's about indulgence. It's confronting the indulgence that's in front of us, where we just mindlessly partake. And it's going to make you more conscious. But I think that we need to add that to the agenda for the next pod, just so we can hear how you came out on the other side and what your takeaways were, surprising or otherwise.
Also, you mentioned self versus role. I think this was also in the comfort crisis when he talks about how in our country people say, "What do you do?" and you tell them your job.
Yeah.
Right? What do you do, Ted? Well, I'm a father who spends time with
Mhm.
his kids
Yeah.
and takes care of his family. Right? No, it's
Yeah.
I work at a school district and I help in the media side of it. And
Mhm.
that's kind of a good way to look at it too. Do you tie too directly with your job as opposed to being who you are?
When we see so many people who stay in their positions for too long for reasons that are
Uh-huh.
simply that, because they don't have any kind of identity outside of their chosen profession. And, Arthur Brooks does great work on this topic in the book called Strength to Strength, where he challenges people to let go of that identity and to genuinely concentrate, focus on who they are as individuals, because as we know, at the end of our wild and precious life, the job titles fall away, and the rank, the title, and what have you, all fall away, and what you're left with is who you are and the people who are surrounding you. So it's pretty powerful stuff.
Right. So we'll reflect on this day for quite a while. You want to share one of your goals with us, Kristen Zeman? I
Yeah.
think I might have
So
given you 2 of mine.
there's a few, I do it in the form of what do I want to stop doing, start doing,
Mm,
and continue doing. That's how I format my goals. And so I had a really great year when it came to my physical well being. And that, I joined CrossFit, I started cold plunging, and I'm really happy with that progress that I've made. So I want to continue doing that. An area where I vowed to get better and I failed was the stillness, the meditation.
cool.
I'm so bad at it. And I have to tell you that I am so type A that when I set my clock for 20 minutes to try to meditate, I get pissed off at all the things I should be doing while I'm sitting there trying to meditate and be still. And I can't even make it through it. And yet, when I do every once in a great while, I know I'm better for it because I resolve something in my head that I'm conflicted with, that quiet. And I don't even do guided. I just shut up and listen to the thoughts as they come. I notice what is bothering me. I notice what decisions that I have to make that I'm avoiding. I notice what hard conversations I have to have that I'm avoiding. And I ultimately come to some decision or conclusion at the end of it. So why I don't stick with it is beyond me, but I get pissed off because I'm like, I've got to write that blog post. I have to go do the XYZ because I want to build my speaking business and blow my goal out of the water this year. So I could be there doing something tangible that will get me more speaking engagements. And I'm sitting here wasting my time, in stillness and silence when I could be doing some shit, And so I have this thing that I have to reconcile. So that's one of the big things. And then the other, which I'll share, is alcohol. Since retiring and moving to Naples, every day is happy hour in Naples, Florida. And I love connecting with people over a nice glass of wine. And it is truly, Chris and I, we will, have a cheese plate and like, hey, do you want to split a bottle of wine? And my body hates it. It always has.
Mm,
And also I also have some emotional baggage. I come from an alcoholic father, raging alcoholic, and he's no longer with us because of that. And so I have a really push-pull relationship with alcohol. And on one hand, I enjoy it. It makes me happy. I love bourbon and I love sharing a bottle of wine with someone. It is my most favorite thing. And my body hates me for it. The next day, it just is pissed off. I have a headache. And so my vow in 2025 is to be more clear minded, is to just abstain and recognize that feeling that I'm going to get when I wake up in the morning, being so clear headed. And so I want to be so conscious. And then, of course, that comes right on the cusp of the study that was just released that says no amount of alcohol is good for you. Well, no
right.
shit. It's poison. I've always known that. Fuck. I just like it, and I like
Mhm.
sharing it with people. And I
Oh,
love the laughs and the connection that we have together. But I have to remind myself that being clear headed and feeling great the next day is far better serves me. And I actually make more memories because I have a friend who I love dearly that's like, you know what? Screw it. We got to make memories. And I'm like, yeah, the problem with drinking and staying up late is I can't fucking remember what happened last night. So
ah,
that's it. I'm just trying to stay clear headed and I want to be super deliberate. And I'm not going to say, no, I'll never have alcohol because I will, but I'm going to be very conscious and very deliberate.
I love so much of that. I love so much of it. I love that you think you suck at meditation. Like,
I
it's a
do.
practice.
I
It's a
know.
practice.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a waterfall going over your head, all these thoughts. Just go, boom, I should be doing
Yeah.
my blog. Boom, and go, thank you, and right back. Oh god. Oh,
Gosh,
oh, that's awesome.
makes
Ted,
me
do you have any
mad.
you wanna share? Just a couple, just 1 or 2?
Well, I just told you a minute ago that I don't do New Year's resolutions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
What
Well,
did.
how
I
about goals?
what I really want to do, though, I do want to get into Kristen's optimization chart because I think then
Okay.
I've got some goals every day, and then you can kind of track and look every day. Are you doing these things that you know are important to do?
Mhm.
I love that. Thank you for that. I made that up just as I was thinking about how do we optimize our life, and it's through performance. Is that's what optimize with optimism is all about. It's through performance. It's getting your ass where your goal is. It's not about manifesting. It's not about meditating. It's about getting your ass. And that's why I'm struggling, so, but I appreciate that because that all that is just forcing you to look at what action items get you closer to your goal. That's it.
Right. And it's a micro movement. It's a needle
Mm-hmm.
movement that in the aggregate at the end of 2025, we're going to look back at this and go, all right, I got some badassery up in here. I
Yeah.
love all of it.
Yeah. Also another thing that I heard, and I don't know if this originates from Simon Sinek, but he said something that I loved. And it was about bucket lists. He said, I don't do any bucket lists. He said, I instead of writing down all the things I haven't done yet, he said that kind of puts you, in a mode of you're deficient. He said what he does is he writes down all of the things he does and then reviews that of like, holy shit, what a cool year. I've done all this amazing stuff.
That's
And I
good.
love that mindset shift. It's like from
Yeah.
scarcity to abundance. And so I want
Abundance.
to start doing that.
I've been
And my
sitting.
friend,
Sorry,
yeah,
I've been sitting on this post I want to put on Facebook more for me than for anybody else. But it was going to be for the month of November. But it can all. But I did so much in November between a weekend little overnight trip with my middle daughter. Went to a cousin's wedding in Chicago. We had family for Thanksgiving, and there were a lot of other things involved. And then December we had, and I just want to kind of put that in a grouping where I can say, look at all the great stuff, fun stuff that I did for these 2 months. I don't want to forget it.
yeah, I love
That's
that.
fantastic. Why don't we commit to that? Like as the
Yes.
Hollow Bunny team, let's write down all the cool shit that we do.
And I have a tangible way to do it. And this came from my friend Alex Voigt. She said that she is going to get a jar and starting January 1st, she is going to write down all of the amazing things that happen or the amazing things that she does. And then come New Year's or the New Year's Day of the following year,
Sure.
she's going to take them all out and revisit. So just a way to calculate it, to measure it.
I love that. But does Alex Wood have a label maker?
She probably does. You know
You
what? I'll get
think?
back to you
I mean,
on
what's the
that.
best
What are we
If
going to
process
she
for
will.
label
that?
this
You
shit?
just put like sticky post-it notes right next to it with a pen, right? Yeah, it's got to be
Yeah.
accessible. It's got to be easy.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
write it, you
Okay.
fold it on the sticky part, and in it goes.
I'm gonna go no with Label Maker. She may scold me later, but I'm gonna go no with Label Maker for
Mm,
Alex. I don't think
I'm
she's quite as
disappointed.
anal as we are. I know. I'm
Mhm.
disappointed at
Yeah,
anyone that doesn't have a Label Maker. I don't even know how you live without a Label Maker.
I
How do you
thought you
even
said she
exist?
was like one of your besties, and so
She
this is a
is.
crushing blow.
I
Okay.
know. I'm
Okay.
also
Got to
married to a
surround yourself,
person that draws squiggly lines all over your brackets. So
bringing it right back.
here we are, right? I mean,
Here we are.
here we are. Yes. So I love the idea. Call if you don't make goals or intentions or whatever, but it has been proven that that points in time help us reset. So whether it is the beginning of the year, whether it is a birthday, a milestone, or whether it is just the beginning of a week, or I don't know, man, the beginning of an hour to say that you will start something, whatever it takes to motivate you. That's all that is for. That's all goals are for.
Mm, mm, mm,
Mhm.
mm. I love it. Well, Kristen, I think we put a bow on this. And more FaceTime with Ted is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I love it. It's
And I will say
great. It's
this:
going to be great.
all this stuff about what we talk about and how we help each other to get better. I've always said this too. It's just so good to be around good people,
Mm,
and it's sometimes
Mm.
it's that simple. You're around good people and have good conversations, and that's just
yep.
fulfilling.
Listen, bunnies, those of you who are listening, there are illuminators and diminishers in our lives. And that comes from
Yep.
Mr. Brooks, who I've already cited. And you need to surround yourself with illuminators. You know exactly what that feels like is when you are in their presence,
Yep.
you feel like someone has lit a fire inside you and that you can run through a wall. Those are your illuminators, the ones that make you better. The diminishers, oof, that goes without saying. The ones that cast a shadow over you, keep their thumb on you, or make you feel worse. And we all have those people. We leave these encounters and we're like, God, I got nothing from that. It didn't fill my bunny at all. It was hollow. There was no substance to it, and it took my
Ah,
time. Those are the diminishers. So make 2025 the year of those who illuminate you and surround yourself with more of them.
word. Let's
Word.
wrap this up, Miss
On
Fig.
that note, thank you, bunnies, for joining us today. Ted Madden produces this podcast, and the song that you are about to hear was written and performed exclusively for the Hollow Bunny by my handsome and talented son, Jake Zeman, and his accomplished friends. If you like our podcast, please subscribe, like, review, and tell everyone you know about it. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Are we still on X? Are we still on that dumpster fire? Because
We still have
I
the
don't
account.
know
We
if
have
we
the
are.
account. It's
Okay,
there.
well, we'll revisit that, but that's a goddamn dumpster fire. I can't even take it. But that, you talk about diminishers. When I get on that feed, I feel like garbage. And so I actually deleted it
Good for
from
you.
my phone and my
Yep.
desktop. So I have been hanging out on Threads and Blue Sky. I don't know if y'all are there, but dumpster fire, negativity and hate and
Mhm.
it's just
Polarization.
vile. It is vile.
Polarization.
Yeah, I don't give a come
Awful.
at me, Elon. Come at me. Okay. I have a Tesla. If you want to like disable it, do whatever you have to do, but it's garbage. Okay.
Yeah,
That's all.
his
Anyway, sorry about that. That was very, very passionate.
a little ragey. A good, healthy rage bank is good.
Okay.
I mean, one of my goals for this year, well, leave everything better than I found it.
Yeah.
Another one's I want to get into a real bar fight.
Oh,
Like
that's
a real bar fight, not at work, like
how is
chair.
that leaving things
I
better than you found it? Getting into a
don't
bar
know.
fight. If you could just
I don't know.
connect that dot for me, that would be amazing.
Didn't say they had to be connected, just had to be a
Okay,
goal.
okay. All right. Bunnies, if you run into Sylvia at a bar, which is highly likely, highly probable,
Even after
be
rehab.
careful. Even after rehab, just be cautious. Keep your head on a swivel because she may pick up a chair and freaking like WWF your ass. Okay. That's all. That's all. All right, bunnies, keep filling your own bunnies and continue adding substance to others. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
When you look inside, what do you find? Are you content to fall behind? When you lose your way and you've lost your why, have courage and get ready to fight the hollow bunny. When the way ahead is covered in smoke and you're tired and scared and you're losing hope, you'll open your heart and your eyes to see a challenge and a question. Why not me? To fight the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. When the challenge ahead scares you to death, you tame the imposter inside instead. To change the world, you've got to start small. It takes a leader to say, I don't know it all. And I know I'm gonna fall, but I'll pick it up and come back stronger. Failing forward and moving onward, doing the hard thing and the right thing, forever fighting the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. And we you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. The monster